Hello my friends, and welcome back to another video. It is a rainy fall afternoon here in Oregon, and sickness has ran through this house this week, so I thought it would be nice this week just to share a shorter video for you guys, something a little bit different. But I am going to be sharing some tried and true recipes I have been giving to my now 19-month-old. If you guys know anything about toddlers, then you know that it is not easy to get them to eat all of the nutrients and things that you want them to eat. So I thought it would be fun to share these recipes with some of you guys in case you are mothers or even grandmothers who have little ones who come to your house often. You can try out these recipes and let me know if they like them. This video is going to be a little bit more talking than usual as I share all of the recipes and ingredients, but let's just go ahead and get right into it.
We were dancing in the dark.
So this first recipe is going to be for some veggie meatballs, and don't get it confused, these are not vegetarian, as you can tell by the meat sitting in this bowl, but they do have veggies in them. So I start out with 1 pound of whatever type of meat that you like. You can use chicken, turkey, anything, but I start out with 1 pound of deer meat, and then I go ahead and add 1 cup of grated carrot and zucchini mixed together. 1/3 cup parmesan. I just use the powder, but you can also use grated. 1/3 cup of flour, garlic powder and onion powder to taste, and also salt and pepper to taste. I preheated my oven to 350 degrees and baked these for 30 minutes. I like to roll these meatballs into bigger balls instead of smaller, just because my son will shove a whole meatball into his mouth and choke on it if I make them smaller. So if your kid is anything like mine, make sure that you make them a little bit bigger just to force them to take bites instead of trying to eat a full meatball.
We were dancing in the dark with a
Also, please ignore the bandage that is on my thumb in this video. I was slicing bread the other day, not paying attention, and I sliced down too fast, almost cut the very tip of my thumb completely off. It is healed up now, but I do keep a bandage on it just to keep it clean. If I had plastic gloves that I could cook in for this video, I would wear them, but I don't have any. So I am just trying my hardest not to use that hand really at all in this video. So this next recipe is for applesauce oatmeal muffins. I start out with 1 cup of rolled oats. You can use really any type of oats, even just breaking open an oatmeal package and throwing it in there would be fine. 1 cup of applesauce, unsweetened or sweetened depending on how sweet you want it. I used homemade applesauce and mine is already pre-sweetened, but any applesauce will do. 1 egg, 2 or 3 tablespoons of whole milk depending on how runny or thick your applesauce is that you're using. 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and then bake it at 350 for 20 minutes. I used a mini muffin pan for these, but you can also bake them into bigger muffins, but the baking time may vary depending on what size muffins you're baking. So just keep that in mind if you make this recipe.
count to 10, then open up my eyes. If you're gone, I'll take it as a sign. But if you stay, then baby hold me tight and send me off with the words of a lullaby. With the words of a lullaby. Send me off with the words of a lullaby. I've been trying to make sense of it all.
This next recipe is for what I like to call veggie bakes. It's similar to the meatballs, but clearly has no meat in it. You start out with 1 cup of shredded carrot and zucchini mixed together. Then you add in some breadcrumbs, some shredded cheese, and 2 eggs. I don't have a measurement for the breadcrumbs or the shredded cheese, just because your consistency can vary depending on the size of eggs that you use and also whether or not you are using fresh vegetables compared to frozen. If you're anything like me, I like to grate my vegetables ahead of time and then freeze them. And if they're frozen like that, it adds in just a little bit more moisture. So you're gonna need more breadcrumbs and cheese to thicken your recipe up compared to if you're using fresh grated vegetables, if that makes any sense. I like to make these into logs, but you can also just roll them into balls like I did with the meatballs. I prefer the logs because it's easier for my son to hold and just adds a variety of different shapes onto his plate. But it does make them a little bit less appealing visually. And you'll see what I mean in just a second when you see me roll this into a log. But they are delicious. This is actually my favorite recipe out of all the recipes I'm going to show you today because I also like to snack on these. I think they're really good, and my toddler really loves them. So if you make any of these recipes that I show you today and you try them, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Or let me know if your toddler ends up eating them. Anyways, you bake these at 375 for 15 minutes.
With the words of a lullaby.
For this last recipe, I'm just going to throw in a disclaimer right here, right now. I am putting all of these ingredients into a blender. Please do not do this. The recipe calls for a food processor. I just don't have one. I really need to invest in one, but I've been using this blender and it's been working for me so far. But I do think that if you did this consistently enough, you could maybe burn out your blender motor. So just don't do this because I don't want to be liable for any of you guys ruining your blender. But mine has worked for me so far. So if you're really in a pinch, I mean, I guess you could do it. Just, I don't want to be liable for that if your blender breaks. Please use a food processor if you have one. But this recipe is for chicken nuggets. These are very similar to chicken nuggets you would get from McDonald's, but a lot healthier, obviously. So I start out with chicken. You can use breast or thigh, but in this recipe, I am just using chicken thighs. Then you add in an egg, some Parmesan cheese, the powdered kind, about a ½ cup. Then you add in a ½ teaspoon of garlic powder, ½ teaspoon of onion powder, 1/4 teaspoon paprika, 1/4 teaspoon salt, and then you blend it all together. You can make these in the air fryer. You would just cook it for 8 to 10 minutes at 400, but I put them in the oven, 425, 10 to 12 minutes. These are super good. My son loves to eat these with ranch. He loves ranch. I don't give it to him often, but he won't eat ketchup or mustard or anything like that, just ranch. So this is a favorite of his as well. A lot healthier than McDonald's, but very similar in taste. So I'm gonna drop all of these recipes down in the description box as well, so you can go down there to see them typed out and you can screenshot them and save them for later if you plan on making them. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Bye!